Dear Sean, I know where you're at and how you're feeling, that there are no words that carry any hope or the least speck of light in this new shade of darkness you have found yourself in. I understand the depth of loneliness you're in, not just feeling of being forgotten, but more so of never existing. Like your name has never even been spoken. It is so hard right now to believe that in any way this will ever fully turn around. And according to our records of numerous attempts only resulting in failure, the reality of it never working out outweighs the reality of it ever will. And to be honest, if I wasn't where I am today, I would be in agreement with you. But I'm not. You are so much stronger than you know because it is Christ who strengthens you. You have been wonderfully and fearfully made for a specific purpose and plan, and God has not forgotten or overlooked you, not even for a second. I know you're carrying more than you've ever carried before, but trust me, my friend, it's in development. Oh man, I get emotional. Of building both your character and shoulders in a way that will help you pick up your cross and carry it every day. You have to go through it to get to it. And when all is said and done, this juice will be worth every squeeze. As much as you hate and despise who you are now, you'll learn to love yourself and know your true value. God doesn't make mistakes, and you're not a failure. If anything, you're the complete opposite. I can't wait for you to see what God has prepared for you and for your opportunity to experience all His goodness. It is nothing you could have ever expected and way greater than you could have ever imagined. Also, a little spoiler, you do meet a woman beyond your dreams, and you have an amazing Christ like marriage. And did I mention you also get to drive around on a brand new Harley doing ministry? These are just a few things. Even more so, though, you are finally fulfilling the call of God over your life and living in His complete will and favor. You no longer wrestle with the fear or question of where you will go and where you'll go if you die or if God has forgotten you. You are a child of the Most High and are worth every bit of His investments. And don't forget all the Lord's promises to you all start and finish with yes and amen. I love you and I am so stinking proud of you. I can't wait for this to all finally sink in when you are the one sitting here writing this letter. Finally able to love you, Sean. So at a young age, I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes and started experience a lot of rejection as a child. And I discovered alcohol that same age that I was diagnosed. And I just remember of the feeling of it taking me out of reality and the situation. As time went on, I started getting into smoking some pot and doing other drugs. And at the age of 12, I discovered meth, and it was like my superpower. I didn't feel anything. I wasn't scared of anything. It had completely taken me out of reality, and I didn't have to really focus on who I was and what I wasn't. When I was 36 years old, I had used for 27 years of my life. And then later in life, when I started using heroin with my methamphetamines, the one time that really sticks out was my mom had gotten really sick, and I was on the run. I was hiding out at her house, and she was upstairs in her bedroom, and I was hiding in the basement. But I knew she was really sick, and she had to get to the hospital. And I remember I had to make a decision: do I get her to the hospital, or do I go get my heroin first and then get her to the hospital? And at that moment, I chose to go get my heroin first and then come back and get her to the hospital because I was like, well, I can't sit there and wait with her if I'm going to be sick. In the meantime, somehow she had called one of my sisters and they had to come and bring her to the hospital. And so that was the one time when I realized like I had actually chosen drugs over my mother's life. Um, and I still at that point in my life I would have done it again. You know, that's how sick I was. I remember I had this like the most pitiful prayer came out of my mouth. I was dope sick. I had woken up. I had finally went to bed, but I woke up and I remember I was shaking and I needed to get to my stash and I could barely get the fix ready. And I just remember feeling so pathetic. And I remember like the most pathetic prayer coming out of my mouth towards God. I was just like, I was like, if you're gonna do something with my life, just go ahead and do it then. And it was just like I felt like it was a tap out. And I just felt so pathetic. And then 2 days after that, I was walking out to the bus stop to catch the bus, and within a minute of the bus showing up, all of a sudden, the task force and the cops show up, and I get arrested. Well, then I get thrown in to jail during COVID, and I had to sit 90 days on my violation, and then I was supposed to go before the parole board, and I was gonna argue, hey, just let me execute my sentence. I was so sick of getting in and out. And all of a sudden, this guard comes up to my cell, and nobody was coming out of their cells at this time. All movement stopped. We ate in the cells, and we got out every 3 days to take a quick shower. And this guard comes up and she hands me a piece of paper, and she goes, "I don't know how you did it out of all these thousands of people in the DOC, but you managed to get a Rule 25 over the phone with Brainerd Teen Challenge on Tuesday morning." And I didn't know what to say or think, and so I just was like, "Well, they must have made a mistake. I better be hush hush about this, you know." And they pull me out of the cell, and I go and have a Rule 25 over the phone. Before I could figure anything out, they're bringing me to the Brainerd Teen Challenge, and here I am sitting in the chapel at Brainerd Teen Challenge. You know, they bring me out in the cuffs and all that. I'm just sitting there, and I'm like, what am I gonna do with my life? I had already blown my chances, and Sam Anderson pops out of nowhere, and he whispers in my ear. He's like, um, oof. He's like, the calling is bigger than it was before. And he's like, the adventure's even greater now, and he's like, God hasn't forgotten, and he's like, the journey's going to be more amazing than what it was. And it was just like the question I asked the Lord, he just came up and answered. You know, it's like you can't even make that stuff up. And and it has been like since then, like the life I'm living now is like the things I would fantasize about when I was in segregation. I'd be in segregation, and I'd be laying there, and I'd just be thinking about this like life that wasn't possible to live. And like a dream, you know, like you think people like dream about winning the lottery. Like I would dream about a life, the type of life to live. And I'm living that, but I'm living even better than what I was dreaming. And it's like, I love what my wife says. She says, God takes your biggest dreams and builds off of that. And like, that's all he's done, you know, like I got the best marriage. I get paid to fulfill my call every day, and we live comfortable. You know, I get to minister to men, minister to the same men that I was. You just got to trust the process. It's so easy to be in the present and looking at the scenarios of the present and everything bad right now going on. That's like the end of the line. But God's always working, right? And He's always doing something, and we never know what His next move is because we're so stuck on the move He just made. So it's not over yet. That's why I just tell people, like, it's not over yet, but you have to trust the process. I tell my men every day, you have to trust the process. When you're doing something wrong and you get caught for it and you lose your pass or you lose your privileges and you feel like God hates you because of this, no, you got to trust the process and understand, like, He's teaching you a new love language. And I think the best love language that we can have with the Lord is obedience. You know, the drugs touch everywhere, but for Alexandria right now, it's mostly alcohol and meth up there. And we do get some transfers from different campuses and different cities. Like myself, I was born and raised in Minneapolis, and so I had to go to Brainerd to get away from Minneapolis. And we see people coming to Alexandria to get away from where they're from, just so it's less unfamiliar. But the Alexandria community, man, it's such a loving, open community. It's just like how many people show up at our doors and they're just like, what can I do to help? What do you guys need? Do you guys need towels? Do you guys need blankets? Can we take the men out? Can we buy the men this? You know, they're just the support of that community is just it's been loving, and the excitement and how long they've been waiting for a teen challenge to get there. But I think the biggest problem in Alexandria, with a lot of areas is the alcoholism. It's not a job. I mean, we are blessed, um, how well off we are, and you know, God takes it, but it's not a job. I don't clock in at 7 o'clock and then clock out at 3 or 4. I'm clocked in at all times. My phone rings all hours of night. And my coaches, who that's not expected of, um, have the same give the same permission as that. If a client is struggling, they give the client's permission. Hey, if you need to talk to me personally, hey, I'm available for you. We're not in it for an employment or a job or to make a name for Alexandria. Our mission is not to set the record of how many graduates we have in a year. our one goal, our one our one thing that we have to do is love everybody, love the clients. That's our one duty. But the second thing is, um, if a client leaves our program, if that's with graduation or if that's coming in a day and leaving a day later, our goal is to make sure they walk out of those doors with a relationship with Jesus Christ. And if we're doing that, if we're pointing them towards Christ or planting as many seeds as we can, then we're successful at what we do. And so we're a family up there. We work together and we all hang out together. We go out to dinner together. We're involved in each other's personal lives just as much because that's the love there. The love of the Lord is in the walls of that place, and the Spirit is running through that place.